Hello, everybody. This is Debbie Eno from, I forget where I'm from, right? Oh my goodness. Let's start again. Hello, this is Debbie Eno from Teacher Success Coach. Oh my goodness. I've had a heavy day today in teaching, so my mind's gone. You will see this is live, right? Right. Hello, everybody. This is Debbie Eno from Teacher Success Coach with another episode of Female Empowerment and Transformation. This is a show we have every Wednesday. Not every Wednesday, I forget where I'm from, right? But today is one of those days that I forgot where it's coming from. And on Wednesday, we actually look at ways by which we could empower women and enable them to become transformed from where they were to where they want to be. So on Wednesdays, I would have a woman from anywhere across the world who would share her journey with us and give us ideas and tips as to how other women could become empowered and how could they become transformed and what are some of the challenges they experiences and what are some of the barriers, etc. Because we've all gone through that. Even though we all sitting here, appearing to be extremely confident, we've all gone through that challenge. And as you guys have just seen that I forgot where I was from because it was one of those days in teaching that it was kind of heavy. So I just had a slight brain freeze, right? We have that sometimes, and it's okay to have it. That doesn't make you less of an empowerment individual. It just makes you more human than anything else, right? So thank you guys for actually listening on. And welcome, 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 Lauren. Thank you very much for accepting the offer to come online to share your journey with us and tell us, more about yourself, etc. Introduce yourself, please.
All right, thank you so much. My name is Lauren Dreyer, and I am born and raised smack dab in the middle of the United States. I am from Kansas. Yes, Dorothy.
I was going to throw that one in. Well done, you got that before me.
I am a mindset speaker. I'm the author of Go With Your Gut and Then Keep Going, as well as the host of a podcast also called Go With Your Gut. And I am on a mission to help people be able to shift perspective, find the opportunity in difficulty, and grow through the fear of whatever is holding them in that spot in their life that you need to break through.
Yeah, thank you. That is so true. Because as we know, fear keeps us locked in.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to separate yourself from the fear, you get stuck in there and unable to move because fear is an emotion that freezes you.
Absolutely.
Okay, can you tell us about your journey? What triggered you to start on your empowerment and transformation journey?
Absolutely. So it was probably about 7 years ago now, and I was sitting in a job, and I just was not happy where I was. And I was working at home. I did that. I was remote before it was very cool to be remote. And I was sitting at my desk thinking, this isn't it. This is not the end for me. This is not where I'm supposed to be. And I allowed myself to dream. And I started to make a list. I'm like, if I could do whatever I wanted, what could I do? And I was sick of that feeling of stuck, of wherever I am is not right. But I was also at that point that I think a lot of people experience of, yeah, I'm stuck, but I also have absolutely no idea what I want to do or where I want to go. And that can be a very immobilizing place because we think we have to have it all figured out by, a certain age, which honestly is not very old for how much life you would have experienced. So I started making that list. I came up with about 6 or 7 things, narrowed it down to 2, and those were a private chef and a public speaker. And typically I would have been like, yeah, okay, that's pretty cool, the dream, Lauren, whatever, get back to work. But I had this thing inside me where I was like, I wonder if I could actually do this. And, a lot of times those things get stuck in our head and we immediately dismiss it because it's like, no, I could never do that. And we immediately just downgrade ourselves of what we're capable of. And what happens when you voice that, put it out in the world, and even talk to somebody? And I chose to go and talk to my mother, who is my optimist, yet my realist. So I was like, I wonder what she's going to say about these two things. Went and met her for coffee. And she said, I think you'd be good at both of those. Here are the roadblocks. And she said, I think you've got a heck of a story to tell. And she goes, I think you'd be a great public speaker. You need to develop yourself a little bit more, but I think you'd be great at that. And she also told me that she thought I needed to write a book, which I was like, okay. And previously, no matter what in my life, I am somebody who has always gotten um, mentally paralyzed by, like, I see the big dream, but I'm like, okay, I don't know how to get there. This is too big. And so I just would dismiss it and move on and be like, okay, no, I'm just going to go back to my everyday. This is the first time that she said something, not the first time she said something to me, the first time that I had put words to it, I had put voice to it. And then she confirmed and said, I think you'd be great. I think you can do that. Absolutely. And then she kind of gave me those stepping stones of, here's where you need to start, instead of good luck with that. It was, here's what I think you need to start. And it went from being this tiny little flame of, ooh, this could be good, to, no, somebody just helped me develop this, and somebody who knows me obviously well. And from then on, I started to actually take action on things. And I'm like, no, I'm going to make this happen. And I started to see that I had a history and a story to tell. And that has evolved into, I didn't go through everything that I went through growing up and, through adolescence and all of the stages. I didn't go through all that for nothing. And um, it, I believe it is a decently small amount of people who are willing and comfortable, well, I wouldn't even say comfortable, willing to voice it, to say, here's who I am, here's what I'm going through. Maybe whatever I'm going through can help somebody. If I'm going through this, I'm not the only one. And it is honestly just completely developed through that. And um, I haven't obviously done it the way everybody else has done it. I am not the biggest post videos on social media. I literally this last week just kind of started making myself get comfortable with that. And that's why I started the podcast, because I'm like, I need somewhere to talk about all of these things that will help people, but it's not just it's where I feel comfortable doing this. And I am getting ready to re-release my book because I released it 3 years ago and I needed to update it. I needed to add things. But this journey has in no way been polished, easy. It has been incredibly messy, but that's life. And all it took was one person saying, yeah, Lauren, you can do it, for me to be like, yeah, I can do it. No, wait, I'm going to do it. Not I can, I'm going to. And believe me, it has taken a lot of solidifying that, because all the forces in the world will try to be like, no, you can't. So that is a long-winded explanation of what got me started.
No, it's not long-winded. It's just really nice because don't forget, we all have different journeys and we all, there are different bumps in the road for all of us. Some of us have a slightly smoother run, some have a
Yeah.
more bumpy run, right? So, it's just how we actually get to where we want to go. And we're still on the journey because you are a transformational speaker or an empowerment speaker, that doesn't mean that you got there. We are transforming all the time because as human beings, we live and breathing, and every day we're learning new information, and every day we'll always be on this journey until we're gone, because it's always a journey that is always transforming us on a daily basis. It's like me being a teacher, as I said, we can never be a complete teacher because every day there's something new you're learning. And every day I think, oh my goodness, yes, I could actually use that for my student. That's why they're not learning this. It's an aha moment. So it's like every day we getting something to transform us, to elevate, make we see things differently. So, in terms of your journey, that was really, really good. A number of questions come to mind. One of it is, you said that it's not polished. But don't you think that even when it is not polished, it actually shows people that I am human, this is me, and this is it?
I 100% agree. And I use those terms on purpose because I am very intentional about most everything I do. Life happens, yes. But I always say, I always talk about unpolished and imperfection because I see so many people who struggle with have to do it right, have to be perfect, whatever piece of that. And I see that stop them. And it's like, okay, this doesn't look good enough. It doesn't, whatever the roadblock may be, right? And I actually, when I record my podcast, I don't edit it. I have an intro and everything else, but I do not edit the podcast because of that. And I'm like, no, I am human. I get jumbled in my words. Things happen. Maybe I trail off in thought, whatever it is, but I love the fact that I am human, and I use that every day. And my hope is that everybody who is watching, learning on this journey with me gets that, to know that they don't have to be perfect. And in fact, they too are human, and progress over perfection, because most of the time, if you're going for perfection, it's not going to happen and you won't get anywhere. But there's nothing wrong with starting it and making it better. That's how it goes. But if you operate on the mindset of, I'm not going to put this out, or I'm not going to do this until it's perfect, never going to put it out, never going to do it, because you're always going to find something wrong with it.
I so agree with you there, because this is so very true. That's the reason why, as a teacher, I'm constantly encouraging students. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay if you mess up, because you guys see I mess up when it comes to especially IT. I'm always messing up because at times I don't, IT is not my forte. So there's sometimes I put something out and he's thinking, oh my goodness. I said, come. You need to show me how to do this because it disappeared. That's okay. And, when you were saying that you don't edit your podcast, and I'm sitting there smiling because I forget people are supposed to be editing things. I don't edit anything. I just go onto my show with all the cock-ups. That's fine. I feel that this is me. There's some people I would resonate with. People who need perfection, I wouldn't resonate with them. That's okay too. We're not meant to be in the same space, right?
Right.
So I also feel that when people see that you're making mistakes and you're carrying on, it empowers them to have a start.
Absolutely. Well, and I love using the example of when little kids are learning to walk, talk, eat, anything a baby would do we expect them to be perfect and get it right? No, we know that they're going to fall down. We know that they're going to do it wrong the first time. It's expected. But somewhere down the line, we are taught that that's no longer acceptable. I don't know where that comes from, but when I kind of got my head wrapped around that within the last few years, I'm like, yeah, why would we ever start something with the assumption that we'll be able to absolutely do it right the first time? Will it come easier for some people? Yeah, sure, maybe. But we were expected to fail as kids because that's how we learn. But that doesn't change the further you get into life. It's just a different perception of it. And I mean, you never hear about the failures because people don't talk about it. I talk about it. A lot of people don't.
Yeah.
But it takes so many times to fail to get it right. And then that's when you see the finished product and you're just like, oh, that person must be perfect of that. No, they just didn't show you the 16 times they did it before where they were about ready to pull their hair out.
I so agree with that, though, because I think it's important that people see when you're going through the process.
Yeah.
Instead of saying I'm seeing the end product. Because this is something I say to my students regarding a baby. I say to them, the baby falls several times, but the baby will not give up. I say, take, for example, if that baby is climbing, there is something, the baby is quite curious. The baby is going to climb up that step. How many times? Because the baby is on a mission. It doesn't matter how many times that child falls. The child is going to get up and continue. Get up and continue. So why is it as adults, we feel that we have to get it right the first time? But that's not real. Some people might, but the majority of us know. And this is something I constantly say to students. Even this morning, I said to them, it's okay to make mistakes. When I ask a question, my main purpose of asking you the question is to empower you to answer. It doesn't matter if it's a wrong answer, guess what? When you get the right answer, okay, yes, this is the direction I need to go in. But the first reason is to get you to speak in the class, to empower you to feel that it is okay to voice your opinion in the class. That's my first purpose and my first reason for you to speak. The answer is secondary.
Yep.
And I think it's so important that we empower young people to take chances, because we're in an education system where it's telling them that they're not supposed to fail.
And it should be the opposite. It should be the only way to figure it out is to start and fail.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that failure comes from a lot of different places, and our programming regarding failure comes from a lot of different places. And in fact, there is a whole chapter in my book called Reprogram, because we don't necessarily have the choice of what we're taught and by whom growing up, and that is what it is. But we do have the choice as we grow to challenge what we're taught, challenge what makes sense for us at that time in our life, and make a choice to decide if that makes sense for us as the individual we are. And that does not include what whoever else externally is impressing upon us, telling us to do, which is, for me, the hard part, because we always want to impress. We want acceptance. I did a whole podcast on it yesterday of, getting that external validation. And when you are around people, regardless of when it is in your life, that you want to impress, you want to please, you want acceptance from, those people may say it's not okay to fail. It's not okay to be wrong. And I would say it's the opposite, because that's part of the learning experience. And I've had to work a lot on my own insecurities of not being defensive when somebody tells me I'm wrong or challenges what I'm talking about. And that's hard. But when somebody comes at you and tells you that it's not okay to do this wrong, it's not okay to do this or this, it's okay to say, I don't agree. It's okay to say that's not what I believe, because this is really my main thing. And it's why my tagline is go with your gut. That's why everything is named this, because nobody can truly tell you what is right for you. It is internal. It is a decision that we as individuals have to make for ourselves. And that's the problem for a lot of people, because we want to be told what to do. We don't want to have to take responsibility for the decisions that we make and those consequences that come with it, right? And I always tell people, listen to your gut, go with that gut. What's it telling you to do? Because you know what you should do. You know what's right for you, whether it be what somebody else is telling you to do or not. So is it okay to fail here? Is that failure, is learning from that failure going to ultimately move you closer to what you want to do, who you are, and who you want to be?
Thank you. There's so much you say in that for me to unpack. That's so true. That's so beautiful. One of the things you've said, one of many in this little conversation, is looking at people seeking validation. And I feel that society have conditioned us so much that we cannot stand in our power, that we need someone to validate anything we do because it makes us feel better, which is very sad. And that also comes with the inability, to take responsibility, and also to feel confident in what you're doing, is believing in yourself, because we become so dependent on what society expects us to do that we no longer believe in ourselves. We always feel that we need to seek validation. And that is really sad. It's interesting because I had a group of year 7 students today, and I was covering that group because I usually teach year 12 and 13. Year 7 is, I think the 12, I think the 12, 13. And that's exactly it. And I'm looking at these young people, and it's a situation where everything they were doing, they were seeking validation from me. I was covering art. I'm not an art teacher, but I like to dabble in art, right? I love art and I appreciate art. And it's like every minute these students were, because there was 26 of them, they were seeking validation. I had to say to them, I'm not an art teacher, but you guys are doing beautifully. That's beautiful. Miss, well, why are you covering? Because if you're not an art teacher, I said, well, I'm just covering and I'm just admiring your drawings. And it's really interesting that even that age, so young, that they're still seeking validation in order to move on. Even though a lot of them, the drawing was fantastic at that age. But you see, the sad thing about it is when they come from primary school, where they were independent little beings and thought for themselves, being very creative thinker, when they transition into secondary school, something happened. Because they're the second year of secondary school, something happened that told them that, hold on, you don't need to be critical thinkers anymore. You need to be program independent and seek validation from other people. And that is quite sad. And then we continue on this journey into adulthood, that we still finding and needing the validation from other people to enable us to move on. The babies don't seek validation, That child is going to climb up that stairs. You say no, that child is going to climb up that stairs. That child don't need your validation. The child don't need it.
Yep.
But it's interesting.
Yep. And what I found I was talking about yesterday was that we seek validation from people who may give us validation in their own way. most everybody has heard and knows of the 5 love languages, but it encompasses that. It encompasses, for me, communication, as well as honestly just confidence to be who you are and what you want to do. Because I mean, when you get down to it, when you're asking, and you're maybe not even asking, when you're waiting for validation from somebody, regardless of how you do it, I mean, are we not sitting there saying, I need your permission to be who I am and to be who I want to be? Nobody should have to tell us that it's okay to be who we are. And I don't find a lot of people who think like that, because it's always, we're always waiting for somebody to criticize us, because that's the world that we live in. Everybody is critical instead of encouraging. Like I was watching, I have a 5-year-old and an almost 4-year-old, and I was watching them color last night, and they were coloring in just letters. And obviously at that developmental stages, their motor skills are very different still. And I was just listening to the comments that they were making to each other as they were coloring. And I'm thinking, okay, how do we start being encouraging into, hey, you're doing great, you've come a long way. And I don't know, that's hard, because it starts so early, from looking for that, hey, you're doing good, or needing the verbalization of learning and the fact that it's a great thing.
Thank you. It's so interesting, so because it is so true. But then that could also boil down to, when people are seeking validation from others, is a lack of confidence, isn't it? A lack of confidence in themselves, uncertainty, and because they've been so conditioned to want this prop, that they constantly seek it. And if they're not told that, they think that there is something wrong with them or what they're doing.
Yep. And where do you start? Where do you start when you get to that point as an adult? Because I'm talking about my small kids, but I know a whole bunch of adults who are in that spot too. But I mean, the truth of the matter for myself is, you just have to start being aware, start noticing, and then get to the root of, well, where did that come from? Which is the scary part, because that takes turning the mirror towards ourselves, right? And to having to then again be accountable and look at our insecurities, because that, for me, that's ultimately where it roots from, is where are we insecure in who we are, to need validation from wherever we need it from, honestly.
Thank you. And it also involves turning the mirror around and being very reflective and being honest about it. Yeah. And sometimes it's very painful, because you're thinking, oh my goodness.
And that is probably one of the hardest things I have found in life, is turning the mirror at yourself, because that then starts to force you to start taking responsibility, start being accountable for your choices, your actions, and how you talk to yourself, how you look at yourself, how you view yourself. And that's a real scary place, but you got to start somewhere. And honestly, as hard and as scary and as ugly as that can be sometimes, I don't mean ugly in a way of look at yourself and tell you you're ugly. I mean, look at yourself and start digging up all of that pain. And the more you can feel, work through, because it is a work through thing, it is a bring it to the surface. But the more you can work through that, the more you can honestly have the freedom of being okay with who you are. And when you can call out the insecurities, when you can call out the fear that boils up, then all of a sudden it's like, huh, we make it so much bigger in our mind than it really should be when you start talking about it. And people look at me weird sometimes, and I'm like, no, seriously, talk to your fear, talk to your insecurity, like out loud. Yes. But you do it, and you start digging through all of that, and it is insane the amount of power that you take back when you can have the guts and the courage to do that.
And it's very true, because you are reclaiming your power.
Yeah.
And then you're standing in your glory. You know, it is so very true, because one of my group is called Female Educators Reclaim Your Power. And it is so important that we really look at that. And it does make a difference, because you suddenly feel like a great giant when you start reclaiming your power.
Yep.
So very true. Thank you for that. What do you think is the most significant barrier to female empowerment?
Getting out of our own heads and being confident that we as women can figure things out, and that we are worth figuring them out.
I like that. I like that. That is so very true, because there's sometimes, you know, we made to feel that we're not able to figure it out.
You know, I think we as women, and this is a very general statement, obviously this doesn't go to all women, is just from history, within, like, you know, the thousands of years history, we are naturally just, maybe it's a programming thing, I don't know, we are naturally just supposed to, or think that we are supposed to be the secondary, or that women just aren't supposed to be as smart, creative, impactful, powerful. I mean, insert whatever, you know, word you want right there. And it only comes from women challenging that status quo, that we're like, oh no, I am, you know, smart, able, capable, I'm powerful, or whatever other strong word you want to add in there, but we have to believe it. And we are taught so much that by society that we can't do things, that we're secondary. And from what I've seen, obviously there's gotten better amount of support. There's gotten to be a greater amount of people who stand against this, but it takes women being able to stand in their power, stand in their confidence, and saying, no, I'm pulling my own dang seat up to the table because my opinion matters and it's worthwhile. And there will be lots of people that, you know, come against each individual woman and dismiss the idea, or downgrade it, or laugh at it. And for me, that's when you have to be able to stand there and be like, no, what I have to say matters. What I have to say is worth something. You just have to maybe find a different way to say it, or a different person to say it to. And I see a lot of women get very discouraged because one person said no.
Mm.
And you got to learn to be like, okay, not yet, or not there.
Mm.
And, learning to stand in your power and brush things off is one heck of a skill, because everybody who lacks that confidence of and has those, you name it, insecurities, what I've come to find is anytime somebody says something to you of you're not worth it, your idea is bad, stupid, ridiculous, insert whatever describing word you want to, a lot of times that is coming from their own insecurities. It has absolutely nothing to do with us, but we take it personally, right?
Mm.
And if you can learn to trust in your gut and say, no, I have credibility. This can be right. This can be done. And no, my opinion, my idea, whatever you're doing is worth something. It may not be, it may not happen in the way that you're thinking, but something can be done about it. But don't just dismiss yourself. And I think that happens way too often.
It is so very true, though. It is so very true, because women already feeling vulnerable, and it just takes someone to say something to just knock them off.
Yeah.
Because as you know, as women, for us to get there to stand in our power, it takes a lot of self-talk, positive self-talk, and the reminder that you're good enough. It is okay. So it takes a lot of that. So could you imagine, someone coming and say something to this woman who's already a little bit dodgy, they just go right over. And it's like we as women constantly have to remind other women out there, it is okay. Of course you could do it. Of course you can. And it's something you said, which is really good in terms of the way we talk to ourselves and the things we say to ourselves. So very powerful. Sometimes it could make or break you.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you for that. One of the other question is, what do we need to do to encourage and inspire some of our male advocates? We know that some males out there who support us as women, but how could we empower them and inspire them to continue to support us?
The couple of things that I would say is help the women around you have a voice and encourage them to use it. And honestly, come from a place of help me understand, because I don't think it's a secret. Most of the time, women and men are wired very differently, but it has to come from a place of help me to understand, because we claim to understand where men come from, but we're not in their heads. We don't totally understand, and they can't read our minds. They can't read how we're feeling, what we're thinking, or what we're going through. And it goes both ways. And I would encourage men to help the important women in your life to have a voice. Do your best to understand them, and come from a place of yes, you can, instead of, sometimes I feel like it's come from a place of either I don't think you can or prove it. And those are, for me, a little bit discouraging too, because that's another form for me of no, you can't. But it's all in the approach, I think. And it's all in the perception or the perspective and viewing women on a normal playing field, because there are some pretty badass women out there who can do things just as great, maybe if not better, but help them to not have things standing in their way and be the advocate, because sometimes it takes male talking to male to give that woman a chance, instead of being like, okay, you'll figure out how to do it. Well, sometimes it takes that a male, or whoever is in that power role, to say, I think she's got something good to say. I know she has something good to say. And help them to get to that platform, help them to get to that spot, help them to make it to the stage, because we can all hear things from some people and we can't from others. And if you know that it's somebody that maybe automatically dismisses any female because of whatever's in their own head, give them a helping hand and be there to encourage, be there for support, help be that power network of, we're all equal.
Thank you. I totally agree with that. That makes so much sense. Yep. Thank you for that. One of the other question is, what obstacles do women still face today?
I honestly think discounting ourselves. I've heard a statistic over and over, and I don't remember exactly what it is, but it has to do with the jobs that women will apply for compared to men. And I think we automatically dismiss ourselves way too fast from applying for something or thinking that we can do something. The statistic says something about, I think males will apply for a job that they only qualify like 50% or something. It's not very high. And they'll go apply for it even if they don't feel like they can do it. But women don't usually apply for a new position, a higher position, unless they feel like they are almost fully qualified. And I think we as women honestly need to attempt to get out of our own way, and everybody needs to get rid of the limiting beliefs. Easier said than done, yes, but I think we have a lot more than we can do, a lot more than we give ourselves credit for, but we don't allow ourselves to believe that. So honestly, we need to learn to go for what we want and believe that we can do that. The road's not going to be easy, but if you really want to, you can make it happen.
I agree with that too. I really agree with that too. Thank you very much for that. What can we do to empower young women? Because there's a lot of young women out there before they become the mature women. What could we do to empower them before they get there and they're so disempowered they don't know what to do?
Exposure to a lot of different areas. I think we automatically expose girls to certain professions, certain industries, and I feel like that limits them a little bit. So exposure to, hey, people see the potential, but we don't necessarily say, hey, I think you'd be good at, hey, I think you'd be good at, and not just once, but exposing them to it as they grow, as they mentally develop. Because if you do it too young, then, they're just not there. But if you keep giving them those opportunities and saying, it doesn't matter if this is a male dominated field, if it's an overly male populated, you can still do it. You have all of the skills, qualifications, talent, and exposing girls to as much as possible. And honestly, that does include hard things. That involves criticism, because we all have to deal with it. So it doesn't mean being easy on them, but in exposing them to things that they can do multiple times, and then affirming for them that, yes, they can do it. They can choose if they want to or not, but confirming that they can do it if they so choose.
Thank you. I think it's the affirmation in terms of, yes, you can do it. It might take you a little bit of time to do it, but you can do it. Just keep on persistence. Yeah, I think that's very, very true. Thank you for that. And finally, what 3 tips can you give any woman who wants to become empowered and transformed, but doesn't know how to do that? And there's a pile of fears, and there's the limiting belief, there's the self-talk going on, all of this happening. Well, 3 tips. If you need more than 3, that's fine.
Oh, 3 tips. Okay. I would say listen to what your intuition is telling you, and that sometimes is harder said than done. Go with that gut feeling of, here's what I want to do. And I am a massive advocate for journaling. It is a scientific fact that writing things down, helps you to remember, but helps you to process. And honestly, decide who you are for you. Don't decide who you are based on what other people tell you that you should either be, say, or do. And you were made to be you for a reason. And nobody else can tell you what is right for you. You have to make that decision on your own. But go for what you want and be who you are. And the people and the support system will naturally come to you, who will lift you up, who will support you, who will empower you, and who will connect you to who you need to be connected to.
That's so very true. Thank you for that. When it comes to journaling, I'm a strong advocate on journaling, because you are taking it from your head and putting it on the paper. And when you see something on paper, handwritten, it has such a powerful effect on the brain. So that's one of the reasons I say to people, I don't really want you to do electronic journaling. Handwriting journal, that's so powerful. The handwriting is so powerful. So that's something I totally advocate. It's something so powerful, very, very powerful.
Absolutely.
I totally agree with you there. Thank you very much for that. That is really good. Something I say to my students and my, female educators that I mentor and coach, you need to be bold, you need to be brave, and you need to be positively blatant, no matter what, and stand in your power.
Absolutely. My tagline on the top of my website, the very front, is be bold, be brave, and be confident. So you and I think very, very similarly.
Oh my goodness. Whoa. It's interesting, because when I said to students, because I think it was last year I began using that, I said, be bold, be brave, and be blatant. And one student said to me, Miss, do you know if I'm blatant, you're going to be probably telling me, or you're going to send me outside? I said, what do you mean? Because blatant, people would be blatant. I said, oh yes, that's the point. Let's change it. Positively blatant.
Yep.
And it's very, very true. Lauren, thank you very, very much for coming onto the platform to share your journey with us. It was fantastic, and I really do appreciate you. Thank you very much for that.
Absolutely.
It's just, you know, it's just really fantastic. And drop your link in the on the page, so we can actually, you know, share it, etc. Because it's important as women. I'm not saying as everybody else, right? I'm just dealing with women, people. Don't attack me for that. As women, we need to support each other, because as much as we in that space, as we know, women do not have much of a voice, although there are more women on this planet than are men. But yet still, we are not in high-powered position for whatever reason, right? So hence the reason why we need to support each other. As women, we need to support and encourage and empower. Thank you very much again for that. And thank you, Facebook audience. As you guys know, on a Wednesday is the empowerment program. On a Friday is the home education, homeschooling platform, where people who are homeschooling and home education share their journey with us, because it is okay to homeschool your children. You have a choice. You don't have to send them to the traditional education system. As we know, the traditional education system do not support all our children's needs, especially if your child have various diverse needs. I'm in the education system. I understand that, but I feel that it's important that as parents, you have a choice. Don't let anybody tell you cannot educate your own child that you've brought in this world. You are your child's best teacher. And on Saturday, we have the Female Education Roundtable, whereby I speak to female educators around the world who are sharing their journey with us about after COVID. COVID, we were all stuck. We were like robots. We didn't even know what to do. Post-COVID now, what's the situation? Is it business as usual? Well, in some schools that have been teaching and they forget they had a COVID or a pandemic, they seem to go on as business as usual. But what they're failing to realize is these children, they are 2 years, in some cases, 2 years behind their development age. Because why? They were stuck and they were not able to develop on a holistic basis. So we need to look at how can we support these young people to start transitioning, because I teach some young people and oh boy, they are 17 and 18. I said to them yesterday, sorry, your behavior is that of 14, but I cannot blame you because you have not gone through the development stage. So that's what we're talking about on Saturday. So thank you guys, have a great evening, take care, stay blessed, and see you guys on Friday.